What's a fact that seems too impossible to be true? There are more combinations of a deck of cards than there are grains of sand in every beach in the world. There have been 8 times more people on the moon than on the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean. 24 went to the moon and only 3 have been in the Mariana Trench. Bonus fact: we know more about the surface of the moon than the bottom of ocean. To give perspective on just how hard it is to study, the volcano chain coming off of Alaska might actually be a part of a supervolcano. And the reason we are figuring this out now is because studying anything that is predominantly underwater is exponentially more challenging. Sad fact: plastic bags have been found floating at the bottom of the trench. I like yours better. Your skeleton is always wet. You don't have a brain in your skull. You are a brain driving a meat machine. You can move meat with your thoughts. Wait until you learn about how much impact your gut microbiota have on you. You're really just a fancy bacteria car. If you stretched out all your blood vessels in a single line, it would span around the earth more than twice. Also, you would be dead. Lighters were invented before matchsticks, and the check was invented before cash. That we kill 100 million sharks every year. That number is just insane to me. It's crazy that you can kill that many of a thing regularly, and they're not even endangered. Rosa Parks could have watched Shrek. She died 4 years after its release. She also cold watched Monsters Incorporated, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, The Fellowship of the Ring, and Jurassic Park 3rd. Edit: did my math wrong? If you snapped your fingers every second as a full-time job, to 000 hours working per year, and got $13 every time you did it, it would take you 10 years before you were worth $1 billion. 4 snaps is approximate $50. 10 snaps would make someone's week. 100 would make someone's month. If you went back to when King Leonidas fought at the Battle of Thermopylae and spent the next 2501 years snapping as a full-time job, you would still be worth less than what Bezos is worth right now. If you earned $500,000 per day every day from the day Columbus first landed in the Americas to today, you'd have $100 billion. Bezos' net worth today is almost double that. We can see the corona during an eclipse only because the moon is almost exactly 400 times wider than the sun, and the sun is almost exactly 400 times further away from the earth than the moon. So from the ground they appear to be almost the exact same size. Nuclear waste doesn't need to last for tens of thousands of years. In fact, you can recycle it and make electricity in the process, and leaves waste that only stays radioactive for a couple centuries. Thesis kind of nuclear reactors are called sodium-cooled fast reactor. One of them was built in France in the 90s. It was called Superphonics. Believe it or not, but it was shut down by ecological activists that didn't like the nuclear tag. Stupid people ruining the world once more. The guns of the last battleship ever built, HMS Vanguard, were 30 years older than the ship. Is that Nelson's Vanguard or another? HMS Vanguard, 1946, used a 15-inch main battery that was originally slated for HMS Glorious/Courageous, I believe, before those two were converted into aircraft carriers late in WWI. You have bigger chances of dying from lightning strike than winning lottery top reward. Can confirm being struck by lightning, but am still not rich. Did you die? The gravitational wave detector setup at LEGO can detect a change of distance between 2 suspended mirrors of less than 1,000th of the width of a proton. Measuring this constantly is how they work, and how we can detect merging black holes billions of light years away. The time between the Great Pyramid of Giza and Alexander the Great is like the time between him and World War I. James Hard was an American soldier who fought against the Confederates in the Civil War. Like all soldiers of his time, he wielded a rifle musket and his enemies fought on horseback. He died in 1953 aged 109, 8 years after the detonation of the first atomic bomb. Italy has a higher total GDP than Russia. In 1880, all US states had an age of consent below 13. The lowest was Delaware at 7. Many people on Reddit did well in school and have secondary school degrees. This may sound stupid and cringy, but Reddit has always been targeted towards the more computer savvy population, especially with its text formatting, and that population tends to be more intelligent book-wise. Social intelligence on Reddit is off the table. though. Reddit has been pushing to be a more normal social media with friendlier UI and the main subreddits becoming less wild. I wouldn't say the average Redditor is intelligent book-wise. I've seen some flat out wrong takes being highly upvoted on major subreddits. Llamas can run up to 40 miles per hour. They're fast little shits. I say this from experience. Sound like a good story? Or you're a llama? I show them LMAO. My female runs from me like I'm trying to murder her when in fact I just want to put her halter on and give her treats. Bananas are a type of berry, so are apples and watermelons. You have natural blind spots about 45 degrees out from your line of sight that your brain automatically fills in for you. Reno. NV is farther west than Los Angeles, CA, and the closest US state to Africa is Maine. The state at the highest latitude is Alaska. The state at the westernmost longitude is Alaska. The state at the easternmost longitude is Alaska. WW3 A nuclear war was literal second/1 action away from happening. There was a Soviet nuclear false alarm and a man named Stanislav Yevgrafovich Petrov was ordered to fire nuclear arms at the US. He refused because he had doubts it was real and was about to sacrifice millions of his countrymen's lives for the sake of the world. Also known as the man who saved the world. Chainsaws were invented to make childbirth easier. It would take less than 6 months to get to the moon by car at 60 miles per hour. And if you were to fold a standard sheet of paper on itself 42 times, you would cover the Earth-Moon distance with the pile of paper. With 103 folding, you cover the observable universe diameter. Damn, I can't seem to get past 7. The observable universe isn't the actual size of the total universe. The observable universe, for comparison, is the equivalent of a light bulb inside the core of Pluto. All of reality could have just started as is, and we would be none the wiser. Also, all knowledge besides the waking experience of being conscious of said reality is based on assumption/faith. Check out Descartes' meditation/Plato's cave/Chuang Tzu's butterfly. North Korea and Cuba are the only places you can't buy Coca-Cola. To add, many communist countries weren't allowed to import Coca-Cola since it was considered a potentially destabilizing foreign influence. As a result, each country developed its own knockoffs that are still around and popular to this day. And NGL, I prefer Coca-Cola to Coke or Pepsi as a whole. We are traveling through space at 390 kilometers per second in relation to the cosmic background radiation. That means by the time you finish reading this, you will have traveled about 500 kilometers. The never spoken problem of time travel. Go back in time and not in space and you are in middle of nothing, waiting for a planet to arrive. That birds aren't actually surveillance drones. Either you're an active propaganda agent working for the government, or you're a sheep. Let me guess, you will also tell us giraffes are a real species, and the Earth actually exists? You have compromised a deep state agent. Enjoy your last 6 hours. Time moves slower the closer you approach the speed of light, only to an external observer. Yeah. So I travel at 99% the speed of light and return to you in 30 years, relative to you, and not have aged a day. Still a mind duck. On any given year, deaths from budgetings, one total year, are less than deaths from cigarettes in a single day. Cigarettes kill 3 times more in a day than budgetings do in a year. Close bracket. Rearrange the letters in Darlor's umbrage. You get gruesome old bird. I've had sex. The time between humanity advancing from bronze swords to iron swords is longer than the time it took for humanity to go from iron swords to nuclear bombs, at least according to an old Reddit post. Dodgy at best TBH. Depends on how you count, because Bronze Age technology took a while to spread. It started as early as 3000 BC and as late as 1000 BC, rounding up. Iron Age, around 400 BC. That's between 2600 years and 600 years. Nuclear Age, around 1950, so 2400 years after the Iron Age. So a more precise way to state this factoid might be, some societies that developed Bronze Age technology early in history waited longer to switch to iron than they did to switch from iron to nuclear. That applies pretty much only to the Middle East and Africa. So the statement applies pretty much only to Israel and Iran. Fair enough. People 32 and older were born before hot Cheetos existed. The story of how they were created is great. Richard Montanez was a janitor at Frito-Lay, and the CEO put out a campaign to all the employees saying, "Act like an owner." Montanez took the message to heart and took some undusted Cheetos home from work to cover them in spices. Then he called up the CEO and said he was from the Los Angeles plant. The CEO assumed he was the plant manager until he explained that he cleaned the place. Then Montanez explained that none of the Frito-Lay products had any heat or spice, and that was completely ignoring the Hispanic market. The CEO and executives came out to his plant to hear his presentation, and he made several batches of the hot Cheetos complete with design bags. They test marketed it, and the rest is history. Montanez is now a vice president at Pepsi. Male seahorses get pregnant. Canada has more natural lakes than all the other countries of the world combined. So like 6. Someone will doubt whether some of these comments are actual facts, but too lazy to fact check them, so they'll generally accept them and move on. Blue tarantulas exist. The earth is not a sphere. It's an oblate spheroid. Actually it's flat. Glasses and the iconic type of the Crusaders' great helm were both invented in the same century. A photon leaves the sun. From our perspective it gets to Alpha Centauri in 4 years. From the photon's perspective, it's there instantly. Every day of missed nutrition is just that. You can't make up yesterday's missed nutrients by taking twice as much the next day. That it is in fact possible and legal for someone to have an idea or belief that is different from yours, or that X fandom you are a part of is not the best thing in the world. Patrick Mahomes is statistically more likely to go to the Super Bowl than Steph Curry is to make a 3-pointer. The same is true of Tom Brady, and he's been playing for 19 years. There are more atoms in a deck of cards than grains of sand on a football pitch. There are more grains of sand on the beach than there are on all the grains of film in the oceans. There are more grains of sand on the beach than there are of grains of wheat in the fields. The universe is truly amazing. Water isn't wet, but can make other things wet. Water is wet when 4 water molecules with charged sides come into contact with opposite charged sides of that molecule, resulting in the water molecule having the same reaction to water molecules touching other things. Due to this logic, any polar molecule in the liquid form is henceforth wet. The fact that I had a girlfriend. During the Second World War and afterward, many sailors got tattoos as a form of telling about their journeys. For example, swallows represented how many nautical miles they traveled, while a turtle represented their travels on the other side of the equators. During the early years of the Cold War, some parents had their children tattooed for medical reasons. Should a large-scale disaster occur and what was needed. This also helps in missing person cases, since it acts as an ID card. Many medical surgeons like tattoos as it is easier to stitch someone back together. I'd hate to meet a non-medical surgeon. Gray hair is caused by air bubbles in the hairs. No, it's caused by a lack of pigment. Before you offhandedly disagree with someone, it would serve you well to check your facts. Also, you may want to drop the pejorative tone. It isn't helpful and doesn't cast you in the best light. Mini skirts were named after the Mini Minor, the car. There are no guarantees in life. That applies to everything in life. Is that guaranteed? There are people alive today that were old enough to have lived during segregation in the US. Coke had a chewing gum. I would like to try it. That reminds me that I oddly like Coke lollipops. Tic Tacs currently have a Coca-Cola flavor option. Since 1420 there has been an outbreak of a deadly disease each 100 years. That less than 5% of the ocean floor has been mapped. We literally know more about our galaxy than know about our own oceans. Technically, our oceans are a part of our galaxy, so everything we learn about our oceans is also something we learn about our galaxy. But I see what you mean. Nice fact. Hadn't thought of it that way. More than half the cells in your body are not human. That 54 is evenly divisible by 18. Why is that hard to believe? 74 million people voted for Trump. I'm one of them. Well, even if we don't agree, I'm glad you were able to. Sometimes, breaking up with someone is the kindest thing you can do for them. And I mean really breaking things off. Not just offering to leave and staying when they say they don't want it. The same people will stay in a relationship where they no longer get love or support. Would never stay in a job if they stopped being paid, even one they liked. People value their labor for a company more than the giving away of their very own selves. Learned this today. Totally had no clue this was real. Flamingos can fly and look absolutely glorious doing it. In the end, love comes for us all. I've lived long enough and looked around enough now to know that pretty much everyone ends up partnered/married at some point. Even the people for whom it took decades. I know lots of people in their 30s and 40s who feel doomed to always be single. I don't know of many people at all who loved past 60 without finding love. I know a few who tried marriage or monogamy and found it not to be to their liking. But they tried it. It came for them. Too. Monogamy was never to my liking. But that only made love come to me more frequently. The Antonov 225 Mriya has a maximum take-off weight of 640 tons. That we cannot drink seawater because of the salt content. All farts smell. Run for it. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.